We think wolves and dogs are basically the same animal, wearing two different costumes. The evidence says something stranger. They are the same species, and yet almost none of their differences come from where you would expect. Picture this. You are camping in early autumn, the fire down to embers, and you are half asleep in your tent, when a howl splits the silence. Long, rising, answered a few seconds later by another one, farther off. Your dog, curled against your legs a moment ago, goes rigid, ears up, a low sound in her throat that is not quite a growl. She has never heard that exact sound before in her life, and every muscle in her body still knows what it means. Out there, in the dark, is an animal that will hunt tonight, travel 20 miles before sunrise, and never once ask a human for anything. In an hour, the animal shaking against your leg will be licking your face and begging for a piece of your granola bar. That howling wolf, and every wolf like it, spends its life patrolling a territory that can stretch across dozens, sometimes hundreds, of square miles, reading scent markers left by rival packs days earlier. Your dog's entire territory might be a 2-bedroom apartment and the block around it. Same species, same skeleton, more or less, same number of chromosomes. And somehow, one of them built human civilization's best friend, and the other one still terrifies people who have never even seen a wild wolf in person. That contradiction is the question this whole video is built around. How do you get this much difference out of this little genetic distance? Because you are not looking at cousins here. Dogs are, technically, a subspecies of the gray wolf. Not a relative. Not a look-alike. The same species split into two lives that could not look more different. Here is a way to think about it that is not about genes at all. At least not yet. Imagine you are holding two phones with the exact same hardware inside. Same chip. Same camera. Same everything under the hood. But one has been configured for maximum battery life. Background apps switched off, notifications muted, screen dimmed low. The other is set to performance mode, every sensor running hot all the time. From the outside, you would swear these are two different devices. Under the hood, they are identical. That is roughly what happened between wolves and dogs. The hardware barely changed. The settings did. The scientific term for those settings is a strange one, domestication syndrome. It describes a whole cluster of traits that shows up again and again whenever a wild animal gets domesticated, whether it is a dog, a fox, a pig, or even a cow. Floppy ears, curled tails, patches of white fur, smaller teeth, a face that stays round and puppyish long into adulthood. And, most importantly, a massively reduced fear response around humans. Here is the strange part. Nobody selected for floppy ears. Early humans were not out there breeding animals for cute tails. They were selecting for exactly one thing, calmness. An animal that would not bolt or bite. The ears, the tails, the coat patterns came along for free, like a package deal nobody ordered. Think about your own dog for a second. That curled tail, that soft, permanently puppyish face. Nobody was breeding for those. And this is not just a dog thing. The same bundle of traits shows up in domesticated pigs compared to wild boar, in domesticated rats compared to wild rats, even in reindeer herds compared to their wild relatives. Completely different animals, completely different starting points, and somehow the same handful of traits keeps arriving together every single time humans select for one thing, comfort around people. You can actually watch this package deal happen in real time. Starting in the late 1950s, a Soviet geneticist named Dmitry Belyaev began an experiment on a fox farm in Siberia. He and his team bred silver foxes for exactly one trait, how calm each fox stayed around a human hand. Nothing about looks, nothing about coat color, just temperament. Within about 10 generations, a genetic eye blink, some of the foxes were wagging their tails. Their ears had started to flop, patches of white fur showed up on their chests. Their skulls even changed shape, growing shorter and rounder, more puppy-like. Nobody bred for any of that. It rode in on the coattails of tameness alone. Here is a moment worth being honest about. That fox experiment is one of the most famous studies in behavioral genetics, and it often gets treated as a perfect stand-in for how dogs came from wolves. It probably is not a perfect match. Belyaev's foxes were bred under intense, deliberate selection, compressed into a few decades. Real dog domestication almost certainly happened slower and messier, likely without anyone deliberately choosing anything. Wolves scavenging around early, human camps generation after generation, choosing us as much as we chose them. Same basic mechanism, very different pace. Researchers still debate how directly the two compare. So why would taming an animal drag along floppy ears and patchy fur, almost as an accident? This is where the twist comes in, and it is a good one. Most people assume domestication works like a dial. Turn it up, the animal gets wilder. Turn it down, the animal gets tamer, uniformly, across the board, like dimming a light. The real picture looks nothing like that. What seems to be happening instead is developmental. Very early in an embryo, before an animal even looks like an animal, a group of cells called neural crest cells starts migrating around the body. These cells do not just do one job. They help build the adrenal glands, which drive stress hormones and fear responses. They help shape cartilage, which forms ears and tails. They help place pigment cells, which paint the coat. One population of cells, wiring together dozens of traits that look, on the surface, completely unrelated. Researchers studying domestication have proposed that selecting for a calmer temperament may work by slightly slowing how far these neural crest cells travel during early development. Less migration, less stress hormone output, a calmer animal. But also less pigment reaching certain patches of skin, hence the white markings. Less cartilage reaching the ear tips, hence the floppy ears instead of upright ones. One tweak, dozens of side effects. Not a dial, a chain reaction. It is a compelling idea. It is not a settled one. This hypothesis is still being tested and argued over, and real critics think it explains some traits well and others barely at all. Worth remembering, next time you hear it stated as flat fact. Even the timeline underneath all of this is shakier than most videos let on. You will hear that dogs split from wolves somewhere between 15,000 and 40,000 years ago. That gap is not sloppy research. It is a genuinely unresolved argument. Different studies, using different methods and different ancient DNA samples, keep landing on different windows. Some researchers even argue domestication happened more than once, in more than one place, with early lineages later merging back together. Nobody is hiding a clean answer from you. There is not one yet. Some of the clearest proof of that divide sits in your dog's food bowl. Wolves are built almost entirely around meat, bone, and organ, a gut tuned for a strict carnivore's diet. But once early dogs started scavenging around farms and human settlements, their digestion had to catch up to a very different menu. Grain, bread scraps, whatever starchy waste people left behind. Researchers comparing dog and wolf genomes have found that dogs generally carry far more copies of a gene that helps break down starch than wolves do. Wolves largely lack that tool entirely. Every time you pour dry kibble into a bowl, you are feeding a digestive system wolves never evolved to use. What you also have is a mountain of behavioral evidence showing how deep these differences run. Take something as simple as pointing at an object. Show a wolf raised by hand a bowl with food hidden under one of two cups, then point at the correct cup, and the wolf will largely ignore your hand, sniffing everything, trusting its own nose instead. Show a dog, even a young puppy with almost no training, that exact same gesture, and it follows your finger straight to the food. Not because dogs are smarter. Wolves are excellent problem solvers, arguably sharper at certain kinds of independent reasoning. Dogs are simply wired, from birth, to watch a human face and read it for cues. That is not a skill wolves lack. It is a skill dogs were shaped to lean on instead of their own instincts. Stress hormones tell a similar story. Across domestication research generally, animals bred for tameness tend to show reduced activity in the hormone systems driving fear, compared to wild relatives kept in similar conditions. Dogs appear to fit that same pattern next to wolves. Same rough upbringing in these studies. Different internal chemistry. Tuned by thousands of years of one specific pressure. Do not be afraid of the ape holding the food. There is a physical marker too, one most people never notice. Brain size. Averaged across breeds, a domestic dog's brain takes up less space relative to its body than a wolf's does. Not because dogs got less capable, because a smaller set of fear processing circuitry is cheaper to run, and cheap was exactly what evolution rewarded the moment humans started handing out food for free. Then there is the eye contact. Wolves, even ones raised by hand from birth, rarely hold a human's gaze for long. To a wolf, it reads as a challenge. Dogs do the opposite. A dog staring up into your eyes triggers a measurable hormone response in both of you, the same bonding chemical released between a parent and a newborn. Wolves never evolved that trick. Dogs did. It might be the single biggest reason the whole relationship works at all. This next part is not just about your dog. It might be about you too, because this is not only a story about wolves. Some researchers studying human evolution have proposed that we went through something similar ourselves. Compared to our closest ancient ancestors, modern humans tend to have softer facial features, less physical aggression on average, and a longer stretch of childlike development before adulthood. It is called the self-domestication hypothesis, and it is still debated, nowhere near as settled as the fox and dog evidence. Primatologists point to a similar contrast between bonobos and chimpanzees, our two closest living relatives. Bonobos are calmer, more juvenile-featured, and far less violent than chimpanzees, and some researchers treat that pair as a natural preview of what self-domestication might look like. But the pattern rhymes. A species shaped, whether by circumstance or by itself, for getting along instead of getting aggressive, ending up looking and behaving more juvenile as a side effect. Your dog's floppy ears and your own comparatively gentle face might be distant echoes of the same evolutionary trick. So go back to that tent. The howl in the distance. Your dog rigid against your leg, one paw still twitching from a dream a minute ago. What is actually happening in that moment is not two different animals meeting. It is the same animal, running two different configurations. One still tuned for a life of hunting territory and reading pack signals in total wilderness. One tuned, over thousands of years, for reading your face across a couch, for staying calm around your hand, for treating you the way a wolf pup treats its mother, forever. The wolf outside your tent grew up. Your dog never had to. What is the wildest, most wolf-like thing you have ever seen your own dog do? Tell me in the comments. I want to hear it.